Everyone heard the sound. That low, steady rhythm of boots against tile, not stomping, not running, just deliberate, heavy steps, the kind that announce we're not leaving until something breaks. Most people in the neighborhood wouldn't have noticed. But for me, a Navy vet, that sound dragged me back to places I'd worked hard to forget. And when I heard it echoing inside my own house, I knew something was terribly wrong. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe the story doesn't start with boots in my hallway. Maybe it starts with something so small, so innocent, that you wouldn't believe it could grow into a war. A lavender plant, one potted sprig in a rust-red clay pot beside our mailbox. Marie, my wife, planted it the morning after we moved in. She said it made the place feel like ours, like we could finally exhale. A family home, not just another assignment. I thought it was perfect. Quiet porch mornings, neighbors waving, our son Will glued to his Wi-Fi like any normal kid. For once, we weren't moving. For once, we had roots. But Marie saw more than I did. She always did. She stood on the porch that first day, eyes scanning the street, noting sight lines, roof angles, blind spots. I thought she was just admiring gutters. What I didn't realize was that she was measuring fields of fire. The first letter came within a week. Slid under our door, no stamp, no signature, just bold black letters. Notice of violation. HOA Regulation 12. Unauthorized plant arrangement. Lavender, I laughed. Lavender, a crime? Will called it the dumbest thing he'd ever heard, like getting arrested for having a salad. But Marie, she didn't laugh. She read it once, folded it, and said quietly, "They're probing." I rolled my eyes. Probing, it's a flower, but she didn't answer. 2 days later, the second letter arrived. This time a photo, black and white, grainy, our porch at night, the lavender front and center. Marie taped it to the fridge like a wanted poster. "They're watching," she said. I told her to let it go, but she shook her head. "You're confusing homeowners with intelligence agencies." Then came Karen. She showed up one morning without knocking, without even pretending to smile. Beige visor, clipboard, polo shirt 2 sizes too tight. The kind of person who thinks authority lives in a 3-ring binder. "Good morning," she chirped. "I'm here to help you resolve your noncompliance." Marie gave her a smile so sharp it could cut steel. "I didn't know we were at war." Karen ignored her. Lavender isn't on the approved list. It creates visual inconsistency, and it may attract stinging insects. That's a liability risk. I opened my mouth to argue, but Karen raised a hand like a cop pulling traffic. "The board has already spoken." And just like that, she turned and walked away as if she'd sentenced us to exile. That night, Marie started the first drill. Will stood in the backyard, bike helmet on, garden rake in hand, staring at her like she'd lost her mind. She tossed him a pool noodle. "Disarm the perimeter, roll, scan, sweep." "Mom," he groaned, "this is Kandahar, it's a backyard." Her eyes stayed locked, so was Kandahar. I watched from the porch, caught between pride and fear. Will finally snapped. "Why are we doing this? This isn't normal." Marie froze, then whispered, "Neither is surveillance." The letters kept coming, the fines, the threats, until one night Marie opened a black case I hadn't seen since we met. She didn't even need to open it for me to know what was inside, her past, her training, her war. And then came the quiet. The dog stopped barking. The streetlights flickered. That heavy silence that only means one thing: someone's already here. I took one step toward the door, and then I heard it. Boots, 3 pairs, heavy, confident. They weren't stomping, they weren't rushing, they were just walking. Into our yard. Marie's eyes narrowed, steady, unshaken. "They're not professionals," she murmured, already calculating angles, already flanking. Will stood on the stairs, phone in his hand, filming. At least one of us was thinking tactically. And me, I was frozen in the curtain's shadow, watching strangers move across our lawn like they owned it. Uniforms too clean, boots too new, pretending to be soldiers. I whispered, "They're here to kick in the door." Marie slipped past me, calm as ever. She tied her hair back, rolled her sleeves. And just like that, I realized the truth I had been avoiding. This wasn't about lavender. This was about control. And they were about to find out what happens when control meets a green beret sniper. The first knock wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. 3 sharp raps on the door, precise like a drill instructor calling cadence. Not a request, A command. Will flinched, my chest tightened. But Marie, she didn't move. She just walked toward the mudroom, slow and steady, like she was lacing up for a shift that never ended. I whispered, "Shouldn't we call someone?" She gave me a look, calm, not cold, but final. "John, if you're going to stop me, pick a better moment." I stepped aside. The door opened, and they filled the frame, 3 broad chests, blank faces, no badges, no names. Just one clipboard tucked under a forearm like it held our sentence. "Good afternoon," the lead one said. His voice was calm, practiced. "You are in violation of HOA Regulation 12.4. We're here to initiate final compliance procedures." Final compliance. He said it like he was law, but his stance was wrong, his boots too clean. I knew soldiers. These men weren't soldiers. They were actors in uniforms playing dress-up with authority. I stammered, "Are you?" But Marie didn't let me finish. She stepped past me into the sunlight, sleeves rolled, hair tied back. No hesitation, no fear. "Final procedures?" she asked, tilting her head. That's a big phrase for a man wearing knockoff Oakleys. The leader blinked. His partner shifted nervously toward the flower bed. The third veered toward the driveway, angling wide, boxing us in. "They're flanking from the east," Marie whispered, so soft only I heard. "Watch his hands." The clipboard man cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "Failure to evacuate will escalate the process." Marie's eyes locked on his. "What process? The one where you get filmed fumbling your taser before I zip-tie you to the mailbox." I saw it then, the flicker of doubt in his eyes, and in that instant Marie vanished. Not literally, she stepped back into the hedges, silent as smoke. 1 second there, the next gone. The men reacted too late. One spun with a radio, barking for backup. The other scanned the porch, maybe for me, maybe for her. And then the sprinklers went off. Not with water, with chalk. Thick white clouds blasted upward, filling the yard like a battlefield fog. They coughed, staggered, eyes burning. Marie had rigged the irrigation. I thought she was conserving water. I was wrong. One man raised a taser, too slow. Marie dropped from the tree like a shadow, slammed into his back, disarmed, zip-tied him before he hit the ground. The second swung blind, only to get swept into the grass with a move I'd only ever seen in training drills. The third backed up fast, hands raised. "We're HOA contractors, this isn't." Marie stepped close, silent, steady. He flinched before she even touched him. She didn't need to, she reached for the clipboard instead. And when she opened it, everything changed. Because it wasn't a checklist. It was a dossier, satellite photos of our yard, notes on when we'll took out the trash. When Marie watered the lavender, when I left for groceries, even what time I usually locked the back gate. At the bottom, scrawled in thick black marker, Phase 1 contact. Phase 2 removal. Phase 3 asset recovery. Marie's jaw tightened. "John," she said, just my name, but her tone carried weight. Will stepped closer, filming still, eyes wide. "Asset what?" "They've been tracking us for weeks," Marie murmured. I didn't answer, because I didn't know, because I didn't want to admit I'd been pretending it was just about a flower. We tied them up on the porch, stripped their radios, dumped their gear in a bucket by the steps. Will watched with new eyes, the kind that don't see parents anymore, only soldiers. But Marie didn't celebrate, she didn't even exhale. She spread the clipboard out like a war map, scanning, analyzing. "These weren't the laid team," she said. I nodded slowly, recon. Her eyes drifted toward the end of the street where the sun dipped behind the oaks. Calculating, calm, already 10 moves ahead. I looked at the man still coughing in the flower bed, chalk clinging to his uniform. My stomach twisted. We weren't warned, we were targeted. And the real strike hadn't even started yet. That night, Marie turned our dining table into a command post. Clipboard, laptop, legal pad, even the HOA welcome packet Karen had dropped off weeks ago, smug and smiling. She pointed at a contractor ID code. "This number doesn't match the state registry. It's fake." "Fake?" I asked. "What does that mean?" "It means Karen's been rerouting HOA dues into a shell company, paying for uniforms, surveillance, fake security." Will leaned in, eyes wide. That's money laundering, right? Marie didn't look up. That's a war chest. I sank into a chair, head spinning. We should call someone, a lawyer, the police. But Marie was already writing a list. We don't have time, they'll be back. And in that silence, I realized the truth. This wasn't about lavender. It wasn't about plants or fines or neighborhood harmony. This was about power, quiet, coordinated, ruthless. And Karen, she wasn't just a board president with a clipboard. She was building an army. The quiet was the first warning. Not peaceful quiet, not the kind you get on a Sunday morning when the world feels kind. No, this was the wrong kind. The kind that presses against your chest and makes your stomach tighten before your brain even catches up. No sprinklers, no garage doors, no kids screaming in the yards, just stillness. Marie froze mid-chop over the kitchen counter, knife resting on half-cut sweet potatoes. Her head tilted slightly, like she was listening for something I couldn't hear. "What is it?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just wiped her hands, tied her hair back, and walked to the porch without a word. That was the first sign. The second was the smell, smoke, charcoal, sweet sauce drifting across the lawn like bait. Will peeked out the window. "Is there a party across the street?" I joined him, folding tables, plastic chairs, red, white, and blue bunting draped across Karen's driveway. She was flipping burgers with one hand, holding court with the other, a queen presiding over her kingdom. I muttered, "Funny, we didn't get an invite." Marie appeared behind us. Her voice was flat. "That's because we're not supposed to be part of the show." "What show?" I asked. She nodded toward the tables. "This isn't a barbecue, it's a broadcast." We ate on our own porch anyway. Out of defiance, maybe. Chicken and rice, like we were trying to conjure normal. I poured iced tea with shaky hands, pretending the world wasn't watching. Then we heard it. A metallic buzz, high-pitched, close. Marie's eyes snapped upward instantly. There it is. Hovering above the rooftops, a drone. Matte black 6 rotors, red lens blinking. Not a toy, not a hobbyist. Military style, precision hover. It wasn't flying, it was watching. Will narrowed his eyes. "That's following us." "No," Marie said. Her tone was razor sharp. "It's following me." My stomach dropped. I stood up, shaking my head. "This is insane. We're being filmed now." "It's more than that," she said calmly. "It's not surveillance, it's profiling." The drone drifted lower, lens adjusting with every movement she made. Then another light blinked green underneath, then blue. "Audio sync," Marie whispered. "It's listening." Across the street, Karen raised her red plastic cup toward us like she was making a toast. Her smile never reached her eyes. Then she turned back to her crowd, laughing at something only she could hear. I stepped in front of Marie. "Maybe we go inside." She stepped around me without hesitation. "You can, but I won't." She walked right to the edge of the porch and stared straight at the drone. Didn't blink, didn't move. The drone adjusted again, lens tracking her inch for inch. The porch light flickered. My phone buzzed once, then went dark. Will's Wi-Fi froze. No signal, no service. Marie whispered, "Electronic isolation. They're testing blackout thresholds." Before I could respond, another buzz screamed from the arbor, smaller, sharper. A second drone zipped out like a hornet, faster and sleeker. It darted low, scanning. Marie didn't flinch. She grabbed the rake off the porch, dropped into a stance I'd only ever seen in combat training, low and balanced. She waited, coiled like a spring. The drone dipped. One swing, direct impact. It crumpled midair and crashed into the rosebush. Will gasped, half laugh, half disbelief. "Holy." But Marie was already sitting back down, as calm as if she'd just swatted a fly. The larger drone backed off, climbed higher, then zipped away over the rooftops. Gone. Across the street, Karen was still smiling, but her crowd was thinning. One dad yanked his kid out of the bounce house too quickly. A mom gathered paper plates and whispered to her husband. Someone avoided looking at us. The illusion of normal was breaking. "They saw it," I muttered. "They're calculating," Marie said. "What happens now?" I asked. She took a slow bite of chicken. Now Karen watches to see who backs her up and who doesn't. A few minutes later, Will walked to the mailbox. When he came back, his face was pale. In his hand was a flyer, bold letters, serif font. Neighborhood unity is everyone's duty. Those who disrupt harmony invite precautionary measures. At the bottom, stamped in red ink, 2 words, Phase 2. I stared at it, my throat was dry. This isn't just about getting rid of us, I whispered. Marie nodded. It's about making us the example. And then I understood. This wasn't a fight over lavender. This wasn't fines or notices or HOA nonsense. This was theater, control, a test. And if that flyer was Phase 2, then Phase 3 wasn't going to come with warnings. It was going to come with force. The knock wasn't a knock, it was a stopwatch hitting hardwood. Click, plastic, final. Marie stood in the hallway, already in boots, vest straps tight, headset in her ear. No greeting, no hesitation, just a single command, you've got 5 minutes. She pointed at the map she'd left spread across the table. Will looked up from his phone, blinking. Wait, what map? Are we going hiking? Marie didn't even glance at him. You're late. She turned and walked outside like it was just another operation. I stared at the map, hands trembling. Backyard grid lines, pressure zones, my name scribbled at 3 corners, Will's at 5, obstacle markers everywhere. My throat went dry. Dad, Will's voice was quiet. She's serious, isn't she? I laced up my boots. She's always serious, but now it's war serious. Outside, the yard had changed overnight. Tarp tunnels stretched across the flower beds. Wire paths zigzagged into makeshift walls of stacked barrels. A garden hose coiled through a wheelbarrow like a landmine. Floodlights lined the fence, their soft glow washing the grass in pale green. Will's jaw dropped. This looks like Minecraft if Minecraft hated you. Marie pointed at the starting line. This is your route. If you mess up, you adapt. He frowned, nervous. What happens if I fail? She pressed a PVC pipe into his hands. Then you learn. The first drill was a literal tripwire, a rake rigged to snap his shin if he stepped wrong. He didn't see it. The rake bit into his leg hard. Ow, seriously, he yelled. Reset, Marie said, unblinking. Again. The second drill was worse, a balance beam over the koi pond. He wobbled, arms flailing. Splash. He fell in, drenched and sputtering. By the third drill, he was muddy, scraped, limping. He snapped. This is insane. It's just a plant. Why am I crawling through mud for lavender? Marie froze, eyes locking on his. You think this is about flowers? Will's fists clenched. You're acting like this is your war zone again, but it's not. It's my backyard. Her face softened for just a moment. She walked to him, slow, steady. You think I want this? You think I enjoy making you suffer in your own yard? Silence. She lowered her voice. I'm doing this because I don't want the first time you fight to be the last. Will's eyes glistened. I just wanted to be normal. Her jaw trembled barely. So did I, but this is that life anymore. She stepped back, gave him space, pointed to the line again. One more time. And this time he didn't argue. No groans, no eye rolls. He moved. Quick, quiet, precise. By the 5th drill, he hit the low crawl like he'd done it before. He rolled behind the planter and snatched the Intel dummy, a tennis ball, without hesitation. Marie raised a brow. Clean pull. Will exhaled, chest heaving. Mud caked his arms, sweat streaked his face. But in his eyes, something had shifted. That night we stood in the yard together. Silent green lights blinked like fireflies under surveillance. Marie said nothing. Will leaned against the porch rail, voice low. What if they come tonight? Marie didn't answer. So I did. Then they'll see what preparation looks like. And at 2:41 a.m., the preparation ended. The sensors flipped from green to red. One blink. No alarms, no sirens, just a soft glow on the panel above the fireplace. Marie rose instantly, strapping her vest tighter. It's time. I jolted out of bed, scrambling for a flashlight, but she was already halfway dressed, boots on, headset live. Will barreled down the hall, hoodie half-zipped but focused. Not the groaning teenager from before. ready. Marie moved through the house like water, calm, rhythmic. She hit every checkpoint. Garage hatch locked, crawl space vents sealed, headsets passed out. Her breath was steady, familiar, terrifying. And then we heard it. A deep hum rolled through the air. Mechanical, heavy, not a drone, bigger. Marie tilted her head, counting beats with her fingers. Sound suppression vehicle, 2 axles, modified tread, no siren, they're going in quiet. Will's voice cracked. Do HOAs usually come with tanks? Not tanks, Marie said flatly. Personnel intimidation units, no ammo, just fear. The porch erupted in light, not ours. Mobile flood lamps on tripods angled straight into our windows, blinding white. Then they arrived. 5 figures in formation, boots synchronized, vests black, visors down. No badges, no names, just shadows in human shape. Every step felt like a verdict. My spine locked. This wasn't a scare tactic anymore. This was a raid. The doorbell rang once, just once. A single chime, clean, perfect, a ritual. Marie ducked low, whispering into her mic. Visual confirmation on breach team. Phase 1, lock fall back, passive resist. We slid into the crawl space nook, breath shallow. My heart hammered so loud I thought they'd hear it. And then the yard roared to life. The sprinklers detonated, but not with water, with flour. Jets of white dust blasted into the night, a storm of powder that blinded and choked. 2 intruders stumbled, coughing. Mom actually did it, Will whispered, awe in his voice. Marie dropped from the roof like a shadow with wings. She landed in the storm and pulled a rigged flashbang, marbles and pressure caps. She hurled it. The explosion cracked so hard the windows shook. 1 soldier tripped over the hose line. Another got yanked into a net Marie had rigged days before. And then Karen's voice filled the night. Smooth, calm, projected from a hidden speaker. This community demands peace. You've refused unity. This is your final invitation to return to compliance. Her tone was so calm it chilled me more than screaming ever could. Marie whispered into her mic. False flag confirmed, proceeding to phase 2. A garden gnome toppled sideways and smoke poured out. Real smoke this time, thick chemical choking. That's when I moved, not because I was ready, but because I couldn't sit back anymore. I slammed the trigger on our hose rig. A blast of chalk and compressed air blinded the last man standing. And then Will stepped into the doorway, breathing hard, holding the tennis ball intel dummy from training. He looked at me once, then at Marie, and threw it. The dummy landed under Karen's speaker rig. Boom! A firework of glitter and strobe light exploded across the street. The squad stumbled. Karen's broadcast cut mid-sentence. Marie raised her flare gun, aimed high, and fired. 3 whistles screamed through the night. Windows opened, porch lights clicked on, curtains shifted, neighbors emerged, phones lifted. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." An old man chuckled from his porch, "Finally." And in that moment, everything stopped. The illusion shattered. Karen's squad faltered under the weight of eyes and lenses. No bullets, no blood, just shame. And standing in the middle of it all, Marie exhaled. But she didn't smile. Because she knew. We hadn't won the war. We'd only survived the first battle. We thought it was over. We thought the footage would be enough, shaky cameras, neighbors peeking from behind blinds, Marie dismantling a squad of so-called enforcers in our front yard while Karen's voice spilled out of hidden speakers. We thought once people saw it, the truth would speak for itself. But by sunrise, Karen had already rewritten the story. At 9 a.m., an email hit every inbox in the neighborhood. Subject line, clarification following last night's emergency simulation. Simulation. The body was worse. Thank you for remaining calm during our pre-approved training event. All footage circulating online is unauthorized and misleading. Please report unverified content to your Digital Harmony representative. Digital Harmony representative. She invented a new title overnight. Marie read the email twice, lips tight. Will hovered behind her. She's saying it was what? A drill. Marie murmured, "She's not denying it happened, she's rewriting it." And the rewriting worked. Neighbors who had leaned out their windows last night suddenly wouldn't meet our eyes. The dad down the street who once lent me his garage tools forgot my name at the mailbox. The neighbor who'd given Will graduation cookies crossed to the opposite sidewalk when we walked out for the mail. The casserole dish Marie had lent the Jenkins family came back in a plastic grocery bag. Unwashed. No note. I paced the living room. She's gaslighting the entire block. Marie opened the HOA forum. The posts were already flooding in, unnecessary chaos at lot 36. Kids were terrified by the noise. Someone has to keep the peace. Line after line, neighbors condemning us, praising the HOA's response. Will frowned. "Wait, look at this one. Kelly R27, but it's word for word the same as another post from last week." Marie didn't blink. Same poster, different burner. "How do you know?" She uses double hyphens for pauses. Same typos, that's Karen. Marie screen captured each post, dragging them into a folder labeled Digital War. I rubbed my temples. "Do you really think that'll convince anyone?" "No," she said flatly, "not yet." Because the next wave wasn't digital, it was printed. Flyers, glossy, folded in thirds, slipped into mailboxes tucked under windshield wipers, branded with the HOA logo. A simulated event does not reflect threat. We support peace. Lot 36 participated in a controlled demonstration. Misinformation is as dangerous as violence. One flyer even had our names. We thank John, Marie, and Will for their cooperation. Will's hands trembled as he held it. She's saying we helped her. She's making us her accomplices. I slammed the cupboard so hard the spice rack exploded across the counter. Garlic, cayenne, salt, thyme scattering like shrapnel. My breath came heavy, ragged. I hit one of those guys with a pressure hose. He could have broken his neck. Now I'm a volunteer in her story. Marie didn't flinch. She laid a hand on my shoulder. She's not writing the truth, she's writing control. And that was the moment it clicked. This wasn't just a war for our yard, it wasn't even for our house, it was for the narrative. Karen didn't care who saw the raid, she cared who believed it. That night Marie called a meeting, just us, porch light off, perimeter set to passive mode. She erased the drills from her whiteboard and wrote 3 words in all caps. Narrative dominance equals psychological superiority. She faced us. People don't believe the truest story, they believe the loudest one, the one that sticks, the one that repeats. Will crossed his arms. "So what do we do? Wait for more flyers." Marie switched on the projector. A loop began, footage of the raid. Chalk clouds, nets snapping, neighbors whispering, cut with her voice, calm, deliberate. "We take the truth back." Our living room became a war room, sandbags under windows. Wi-Fi rerouted through proxies, foam tiles on the walls, generator humming in the corner. A green bedsheet taped to the wall, one ring light clamped to a broomstick, clip-on mics dangling from the ceiling. This wasn't production, it was resistance. We didn't open with drama, we opened with facts, security footage, slow-motion stabilizations, zoom-ins on unmarked vests, heat signatures overlaid with timestamps. Marie's narration was steady. Subject 1 enters at 2:41 a.m. No identification, no protocol, unauthorized incursion. Will asked, "Don't we need music or something?" Marie shook her head. "The truth doesn't scream, it just stands." By the time we finished the first cut, my voice was raw, Marie's eyes bloodshot, and Will's foot numb under the tripod. Marie cracked her knuckles. "Launch it." Will uploaded it through a burner VPN. No metadata. Title, Tactical HOA Raid, Family Security Footage. 12 hours later, 57,000 views. Then mirrored, translated into Spanish and Korean, picked up by forums, legal reform channels. A veteran subreddit tagged it Suburban Militia, LARP no more. By sunset, local news ran a 3-minute segment. Blurred faces, distorted voices, but Karen's voice clear as day. At 9 p.m., she fired back, a tight video statement, beige blazer, piano music in the background. The footage in question is heavily edited. It is part of a coordinated misinformation campaign. I've served this community transparently for 7 years. I will not be intimidated. She looked tired, but not beaten. Marie didn't flinch. She just clicked export on version 2. This time a split screen. Left, Karen's statement. Right, uncut footage. Receipts followed. HOA payment logs, Sentinel Grove contracts, board minutes. Even private chat logs where board members joked about neutralization drills. Will's jaw dropped. Where did you get this? Marie sipped her tea. I still have friends in low places. The finale was simple. Daylight shots of kids playing, dogs barking, then boots. Riot gear, spotlights, stillness. Overlay text. Which version do you want to live in? Marie uploaded it. No VPN, no burner. She wanted her name on it. Within an hour, it was trending. By morning, Karen announced a temporary step back from the HOA. 3 days later, ballots were printed. Her name wasn't on them. That night we sat in the dark, the hum of Marie's hard drive syncing files to the cloud. Will whispered, so she's gone. Marie didn't look up. No, she's regrouping, and when she comes back it won't be through emails. I exhaled heavy, then how? Marie's eyes stayed on the screen, through the front door. The silence was worse than the raids. No boots, no drones, no chalk storms in the yard, just quiet. And in that quiet we almost let ourselves believe it was over. Almost. Until the knock came. Not a pounding, not a battering ram, just 3 soft taps. Polite, ordinary, the kind of knock you hear from a neighbor dropping off cookies. I froze, hand hovering over the knob. After everything, the battles, the broadcasts, the files Marie had torn open, it was this sound that rattled me most. Because it wasn't violent. It was calm, expected, entitled. I opened the door. Karen stood there. No blazer, no clipboard, no HOA badge, just a gray sweater, neutral flats, and that same smile she'd worn at every potluck, every board meeting, every complaint about our recycling bins. Hi, John, she said softly. Not warm, not cold, just scripted. I didn't answer. Behind me, Marie was already in the hallway, still silent, eyes locked. Will appeared on the stairs, jaw tight, fists clenched. Karen clasped her hands in front of her. I just wanted to talk. Marie's voice was steady, razor-sharp. About what? Karen smiled again, that over-rehearsed corporate smile. About peace, about what's best for the neighborhood. Marie stepped closer, unblinking. You lost. Karen tilted her head. And you think that's the end? Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It slid into the room like smoke. You shook the system, Karen admitted. You exposed things, you rallied people, but energy doesn't last. People get tired, people forget. Her eyes drifted past me, scanning our living room like she still had the keys. Order, she said softly. Real order doesn't fade with one vote. Marie folded her arms. Did you come to threaten us? No, Karen said, calm as ever. I came to offer you a position. The words hung in the air, absurd at first. Marie blinked once. Come again. Karen leaned in just slightly. You were efficient, strategic. You built discipline. You understand command. That's what this community needs. I felt my stomach turn. You want her to work for you. Karen shrugged, casual. The uniform doesn't matter. The structure does. You kept a perimeter. You enforced compliance your way. Imagine what we could accomplish if we weren't against each other. Marie's silence was heavier than any reply. Finally, she asked, and what if I say no? Karen's smile didn't falter. She stepped back, adjusting her sweater like it was armor. Then we'll see how long your version of peace holds. She turned, walking down the path, voice drifting casually over her shoulder. Power always finds its way home. She didn't look back. Marie closed the door slowly, locking each bolt. Will let out a breath he'd clearly been holding. She's not gone, he whispered. She never is, Marie replied. That night we didn't celebrate. There were no toasts, no laughter, just recalibration. We walked the yard, checked the sensors, rewired fallback protocols. We'll scribbled 2 new scenarios onto the whiteboard: false peace response, diplomatic knockdown threshold. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the mug I'd shattered weeks earlier during the first siege. We glued it back together. It held coffee fine, but the crack was still there. A reminder. Because power doesn't always storm the gates. Sometimes it wears flats, smiles, speaks softly. And if you're not ready, really ready, you let it back in. That's what Marie had known from day one. This wasn't a war, it was a balance. And balance doesn't stay. You hold it or you lose it. Everyone thought the war was over. A new board had been voted in, Karen had stepped back, and on the surface the neighborhood seemed calmer. People waved again, sprinklers hummed, kids argued over swing sets, but Marie didn't believe in surface. She believed in patterns, and the pattern was wrong. The first clue was the silence. Not the same silence before the raid, this one was softer, disguised. Neighbors who used to chat at the mailbox suddenly cut conversations short when we approached. The Jacksons, who'd given Will leftover cupcakes, now pulled their shades the second they saw us pass. Every smile we got felt a second too late, a fraction too forced. Will said it best one morning at breakfast, voice low. It feels like we're living in a group project where everyone else already has a secret plan. Marie didn't laugh. She just slid him the orange juice and said, "That's because we are." Later that day, the flyers started again. This time they weren't threats. They were polished, glossy, warm, community first, strength in unity, building harmony together. Pictures of kids on bikes, families at block parties, Karen's face nowhere in sight. I almost relaxed, but Marie didn't. She flipped the flyer over. Her eyes caught a faint emboss on the bottom corner, a red triangle, Phase 2. "She's still here," Marie whispered. I rubbed my temples. "But she's not on the board anymore, she's done." Marie shook her head. "She doesn't need the board, she built the infrastructure, the board was just the mask." That night she spread out maps across the dining table again. Not of our yard this time, of the whole block, notes in the margins, sightlines, who had cameras, who didn't, who joined Karen's block parties, who stayed away. Will leaned over, nervous. "You're mapping neighbors now." Marie didn't look up. "I'm mapping loyalties." It chilled me, the matter-of-fact way she said it, like the neighborhood wasn't a place we lived in anymore. It was a grid, a battlefield. The next morning, the signs were clearer. Yard gnomes that weren't just decorations, their eyes glinted with black lenses. Stickers on fences with QR codes that led nowhere. Posters for a neighborhood wellness drive with no organizer listed. And then there was the van. Black, no plates, parked 2 streets over. Wrappers and fast food bags inside, but on the dashboard a folder labeled HOA Field OPS, Westfield Zone. Marie photographed everything. Angles, timestamps, tire treads, she filed them like case evidence. By the time we got home, a new flyer had been pushed through the gate. This one wasn't friendly. All caps, serif font, same red triangle at the bottom. Neighborhood unity is everyone's duty. Those who disrupt harmony invite removal. Will held it like it was radioactive. His voice cracked. "She's turning us into the villains." Marie didn't answer. She didn't need to, because the war wasn't about us anymore. It was about the neighborhood. That evening she set up a new drill, not physical, not tactical, psychological. She taped phrases across the living room wall: selective silence, manufactured consensus, narrative conditioning. Will frowned. "What does that even mean?" "It means she doesn't need boots anymore," Marie said. "She's teaching the neighborhood to isolate us, to rewrite us out of the story." I swallowed hard. And what happens when the story sticks? Marie's eyes were sharp. Then we stop existing. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching porch lights flicker off one by one, the neighborhood slipping into quiet compliance. And in that quiet I realized the truth. This wasn't just Karen's war anymore. It was everyone's. Because silence wasn't neutral, it was allegiance. And one by one, the block was choosing her. Power doesn't always come with boots or drones. Sometimes it comes dressed in silence. It happened on a Tuesday, No floodlights, no chalk bombs, no blaring speakers declaring us non-compliant. Just a knock, soft, precise. The kind that didn't ask for permission, it expected it. I froze again, just like I had before. My hand hovered over the knob. After all the chaos, after raids and broadcasts and propaganda wars, this simple sound hit harder than anything else. Because it was polite, and polite is disarming. I opened the door, and there she was. Karen, no visor, no clipboard, no army at her back. Just a gray sweater, flats, and that practiced smile she carried like a weapon. "Hi, John," she said, voice smooth as glass. I didn't answer, I didn't need to. Marie was already there, silent in the hallway, shoulders squared, eyes fixed. Will stood behind her, jaw set, fists curled like he was ready for something, anything except this. Karen folded her hands like she was delivering a prayer. "I came to talk." Marie's voice cut sharp. "About what?" Karen smiled wider. "About peace, about what's best for the neighborhood." "You lost," Marie said. Karen tilted her head. "And you think that's the end?" Her words slid into the room like smoke, curling around us, impossible to swat away. "You exposed things," Karen admitted. "You rallied people, but energy doesn't last. People get tired, they forget. And order doesn't fade with one vote." Her eyes wandered across our living room like she was inspecting it for the last time, memorizing what she thought was still hers. Then they landed back on Marie. "I'm not here to threaten you," she said calmly. "I'm here to offer you something." Marie's eyes narrowed. "What?" Karen's voice softened, persuasive. "A position. You were efficient, strategic. You enforced discipline. That's what this place needs. You don't need to fight me, Marie. You could run this with me." The silence that followed was heavier than any raid. Finally, Marie spoke, voice low, steady. "You want me to be your new enforcer?" Karen's shrug was almost casual. "The uniform doesn't matter, the structure does. Power doesn't disappear, Marie, it adapts. And with you, it adapts faster." My stomach turned. My wife, the woman who had fought to keep this family safe, was being asked to cross the line, to join the very machine that tried to crush us. Marie's face didn't twitch. She just asked one final question. "And if I say no?" Karen's smile never faltered. She stepped back onto the walkway, adjusting her sweater like armor. "Then we'll see how long your version of peace holds." She turned, walking down the path without hurry, without fear. And before she reached the street, she tossed one final line over her shoulder. "Power always finds its way home." She didn't look back. The door clicked shut behind her. Will finally exhaled. "She's not gone," he whispered. Marie didn't hesitate. She never is. That night there were no celebrations, no relief. We didn't pour iced tea on the porch or sit around laughing about surviving another attack. We walked the yard in silence, checked sensors, rewired protocols. Marie recalibrated the fallback drills. Will added new notes to the whiteboard, false peace response. Diplomatic knockdown threshold. And me, I stood in the kitchen holding the mug I'd shattered during the first siege. We glued it back together weeks ago. It worked fine, but the crack was still there. A scar in porcelain, a reminder. Because Marie was right. Power doesn't always storm the gates. Sometimes it smiles at your doorstep, polite, soft-spoken, wearing flats. And if you're not ready, if you let yourself believe the war is over just because the battlefield looks quiet, you open the door, you let it in. That was when I finally understood what Marie had known from day one. This wasn't a war we could win once and for all. It was balance, a balance that never stays. You either hold it or you lose it. And when power knocks politely, you'd better remember exactly why you reinforced the door in the first place. You've heard this confession, now wait until you hear the next one.